Gene Hackman's kids not mentioned in his will. Here's what could happen to his $80 million fortune.
A surprising update in the death investigations of Gene and Betsy Hackman. Officials now say Betsy called a medical service the morning after she was previously thought to have died.
Gene Hackman's unexpected passing has cast a long shadow over his legendary career and personal life, igniting controversy over the fate of his substantial fortune. The late actor, whose contributions to film were celebrated with multiple accolades and whose presence in Hollywood was synonymous with a captivating intensity, left behind a will that has shocked many fans and family members alike. According to documents that have surfaced, Hackman's estate, reportedly valued at around $80 million, was entirely bequeathed to his wife, Betsy Arakawa. In doing so, he made no direct mention of the 3 children he had from his previous marriage. This omission has not only stirred public debate, but has also set the stage for a potential legal battle that could reshape the understanding of estate planning for even the most successful celebrities. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The intricate details of Hackman's estate planning reveal a carefully constructed legal framework that spanned decades. Back in 1995, the actor established the Gene Hackman Living Trust, designating Betsy Arakawa as the sole beneficiary and successor trustee. This arrangement was later reaffirmed in his will, which was last updated in 2005. In these documents, Hackman unambiguously stated, "I give my entire estate to Betsy Arakawa Hackman." Despite the explicit nature of these instructions, his children, Christopher, Elizabeth, and Leslie, were mentioned only in a nominal way, without any promise of financial benefit. This legal configuration was presumably meant to reflect Hackman's personal choice and the depth of his relationship with Arakawa, with whom he had forged a new life after his divorce from Faye Maltese in the 1980s. However, the fact that his children were left out of the estate raises challenging questions about familial obligations, the rights of heirs under intestate succession laws, and the possible implications of long-standing estrangement. In the wake of Hackman's death, the timing of the couple's passing has only compounded the complexity of the situation. Reports indicate that Betsy Arakawa died several days before Hackman. The chronology of these events is significant because Arakawa's own will contained a provision stipulating that if she and Hackman died within a certain time frame, 90 days in this case, the assets would be directed to a charitable trust rather than to an individual heir. Such a clause was intended to protect the integrity of their shared vision for their estate and to prevent any potential manipulation of the trust's terms. Yet, this legal nuance has left the children with a glimmer of hope. As direct living heirs by blood, they now have a potential claim to Hackman's fortune if they can successfully challenge the trust's provisions or demonstrate that undue influence may have affected Hackman's decisions at the time of drafting his will. The possibility of overturning the arrangement by invoking legal precedents, such as the 2009 Chapman v. Varela case in New Mexico, suggests that the dispute may not be as clear-cut as the documents first appeared. The backdrop to this financial conundrum is steeped in the personal history of Gene Hackman. Known for his relentless dedication to his craft, Hackman's career spanned over several decades, during which he earned a reputation as one of Hollywood's most meticulous and private figures. Even as he achieved international stardom, he maintained a guarded personal life. His relationships, especially with his children from his first marriage, were reportedly strained for years. In a 2000 interview with the Irish Independent, Hackman admitted that the pressures of celebrity life and the constant demands of his career had led to periods of distance between him and his offspring. He candidly acknowledged that his absence during their formative years had left an indelible mark, one that his children might still be grappling with. While it appears that reconciliation occurred in later years, the scars of earlier neglect may have contributed to the stark decisions reflected in his estate planning documents. This family dynamic adds another layer of complexity to the inheritance dispute, as emotions and unresolved grievances are likely to influence any legal proceedings that may ensue. Betsy Arakawa, for her part, was not merely a beneficiary but also a central figure in Hackman's later life. A talented classical pianist and an entrepreneur in her own right, Arakawa's presence was pivotal to the stability and privacy that Hackman cherished. After their marriage in 1991, the couple built a life together in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a place that offered them both seclusion and inspiration. Their compound, a sprawling estate valued at approximately $3.8 million, became a sanctuary away from the relentless glare of Hollywood. In this retreat, Hackman not only sought solace, but also immersed himself in creative pursuits that extended beyond acting. Yet the tragedy of their deaths, occurring within days of each other, has rendered the intended beneficiaries of their carefully curated estate a matter of heated legal debate. The fact that Betsy predeceased Hackman has turned the straightforward allocation of assets on its head, leaving room for his children to argue that as his only living blood relatives, they deserve to inherit the legacy he left behind. The legal intricacies surrounding Hackman's will are a study in the delicate balance between testamentary freedom and the rights of natural heirs. In many jurisdictions, especially when dealing with large estates, the law often provides a safety net for children and other dependents who may be inadvertently or intentionally left out of a will. While Hackman's documents clearly favored Betsy Arakawa, the absence of explicit provisions for his children opens the door to challenges. Legal experts note that such challenges typically revolve around claims of undue influence, particularly in cases where the testator might have been manipulated by a beneficiary or where the testator's capacity to make informed decisions was in question. Given that Hackman had been dealing with advanced Alzheimer's disease in his later years, questions about his mental capacity at the time of drafting or updating his will could arise. Although public statements and media reports have generally portrayed Hackman as lucid during interviews in the years preceding his death, the vulnerability that accompanies such a debilitating condition cannot be entirely dismissed by those seeking to contest the will. Moreover, the procedural aspects of estate administration add another layer of uncertainty. Once both Hackman and Arakawa passed away, the estate was thrust into a state of legal limbo. Court filings have revealed that the estate's legal representatives, including the successor trustee and personal representatives named in the documents, are now under pressure to preserve the estate's integrity while navigating the murky waters of probate law. One notable point of contention is whether Hackman's children, by virtue of being his direct descendants, have a rightful claim to his assets regardless of the specific instructions in his will. In many cases, the courts have been inclined to rule in favor of children when it can be shown that the testator's exclusion of them was not consistent with his broader intentions, or when the legal framework provides for a default inheritance through intestate succession laws. The existence of a living trust further complicates matters, as such trusts are designed to keep the details of asset distribution private, often shielded from public scrutiny until a dispute arises. The cultural and emotional impact of this controversy cannot be understated. Gene Hackman was a figure who transcended the silver screen. His performances not only captivated audiences, but also left a lasting imprint on the art of filmmaking. His deliberate choice to exclude his children from his will has left fans and critics alike pondering the personal costs of fame and the isolation that can accompany a life dedicated to the craft of acting. While some view the decision as a final act of devotion to his wife, others see it as a symbol of a lifetime of emotional distance from his children. In interviews conducted over the years, Hackman often spoke about the sacrifices required by a career in Hollywood. But the stark reality of his familial choices has now become a point of public discussion. The possibility that his children might challenge the will suggests that the complexities of family dynamics, regret, reconciliation, and the search for recognition remain unresolved even after his death. As legal proceedings loom, the story of Gene Hackman's estate serves as both a cautionary tale and a subject of fascination. For those within the legal profession, the case offers a prime example of how even well-crafted estate plans can be rendered ambiguous by unforeseen circumstances. The failure to update the trust after the death of key individuals, such as Michael Sutton, the former attorney designated as a backup personal representative, has left the estate vulnerable to challenges. Now, with Julia L. Peters stepping into the role of managing the fallout, the estate faces a period of uncertainty as legal experts prepare for what could become a protracted battle in the courts. Lawyers specializing in trust and estate law have noted that the situation might eventually be decided by a close reading of the language in both Hackman's and Arakawa's wills, along with an assessment of the legal standards governing undue influence and testamentary capacity in New Mexico. The case underscores the importance of periodic reviews and updates to estate plans, particularly for individuals whose lives undergo significant changes in circumstances or relationships. The public reaction to the news has been one of mixed sentiment. While some fans express sympathy for the actor's children, acknowledging that they may have been subjected to years of emotional neglect, others stand by Hackman's decision, arguing that the choice of a longtime partner to inherit his wealth was a reflection of his personal autonomy. In an era where celebrity estate battles often become tabloid fodder, this case has sparked debates about the responsibilities of public figures towards their families. It also raises broader questions about the balance between personal choice and legal rights. Should a celebrated actor's personal decisions in life be scrutinized posthumously? Or should the sanctity of his private wishes be upheld irrespective of public opinion? These are the kinds of questions that legal scholars and ethicists alike are examining in light of the current controversy. Another dimension of the unfolding drama is the intricate nature of New Mexico's legal framework regarding simultaneous deaths. The state has specific provisions that define simultaneous death or common disaster events, which directly affect how assets are distributed. In Hackman's case, the timing of Betsy Arakawa's death relative to his own triggers a clause in her will that calls for her estate to be redirected to charity if both died within a prescribed period. This clause, while seemingly straightforward, has profound implications for Hackman's overall estate. With both individuals dying within days of each other, the legal presumption is that their assets should not be divided between family members but rather allocated to charitable causes. However, because Hackman's will expressly names Arakawa as his sole beneficiary, and because his children are only acknowledged as heirs without a designated share, there exists a legal ambiguity that could result in a contested outcome. The precise interpretation of these provisions and the court's willingness to consider challenges based on testamentary capacity or undue influence will ultimately determine the fate of the fortune. The potential legal challenge by Hackman's children, particularly by his eldest son Christopher, who has already secured the services of a high-profile trust and estate attorney, is emblematic of the enduring conflict between family ties and individual testamentary freedom. Legal challenges of this nature are not uncommon in cases involving large estates, especially when the testator's actions deviate sharply from what might be expected by societal norms regarding the treatment of one's offspring. Courts have at times been willing to set aside even clear instructions if it can be demonstrated that the testator was not of sound mind or was unduly influenced by another party. In Hackman's case, the presence of Alzheimer's disease in his later years may provide a foothold for arguments questioning his capacity to make such life-altering decisions. Nevertheless, the fact that he continued to participate in public interviews and was regarded as lucid during significant parts of his later life may counter such claims. The legal battle, if it ensues, promises to be a long and complex one, potentially involving extensive expert testimony and a detailed examination of the actor's personal correspondence and medical records. Beyond the immediate legal implications, the dispute over Gene Hackman's estate touches on timeless themes of legacy, memory, and the inherent conflict between private wishes and public expectations. Hackman's body of work in cinema has left an indelible mark on culture, and his personal story is now being re-examined in light of this controversy. The stark decision to exclude his children, despite later attempts at reconciliation, invites a broader conversation about the costs of a life devoted to artistic excellence and the inevitable personal sacrifices that come with it. The children, who grew up in the shadow of a Hollywood icon, now face the dual burden of navigating their own grief while contesting what they perceive as an unjust legacy. Their struggle is not merely about financial inheritance, but also about seeking acknowledgement and validation from a father whose attention was once in short supply. For many observers, this is a deeply human story, a reflection of how even the most celebrated lives can be marred by unresolved familial discord. At the heart of the dispute is a question of intent. Hackman's will and trust documents suggest that he intended for his wife to be the primary steward of his legacy. This decision, while legally binding, also speaks volumes about his personal priorities and the dynamics of his relationships. His choice to grant his wife complete control over his estate may have been driven by an intimate understanding of their shared life, a life that for decades was shielded from the prying eyes of the public. The couple's years in Santa Fe, spent away from the relentless pace of Hollywood, were marked by a commitment to privacy and an appreciation for the tranquility of a simpler life. Yet this same commitment to privacy and the exclusion of his children from the will stand in stark contrast to the public's perception of familial responsibility. It is a paradox that has fueled intense debate among fans, legal experts, and cultural commentators alike. The estate now becomes a battleground where legal technicalities intersect with deep-seated emotional wounds. A reminder that behind every will lies a web of personal choices that can have far-reaching consequences long after the testator has passed away. The role of the legal system in such disputes is to balance the clear intentions of the deceased with the rights of those who remain. Estate planning is a profoundly personal process, and while the law provides a framework for ensuring that assets are distributed according to one's wishes, it also acknowledges that human relationships are rarely simple. In Hackman's case, the omission of his children may have been a calculated decision influenced by decades of complex personal interactions. Yet the law also recognizes that children are, in many jurisdictions, entitled to a share of their parents' estate, regardless of the provisions laid out in a will. The emerging legal challenge, therefore, is poised to test the boundaries of testamentary freedom. It will examine whether Hackman's decision was made under conditions that might be deemed less than fully informed, or if it was simply a reflection of a personal choice that should now be respected in its entirety. As the legal proceedings unfold, they will likely serve as a precedent for other cases where celebrity wills and family disputes collide, a reminder that even in the realm of immense wealth and fame, the human element remains paramount. The broader implications of this case extend well beyond the confines of Hackman's personal fortune. It raises important questions about the role of estate planning in modern society, particularly for individuals in the public eye. Celebrities often lead lives that are scrutinized and analyzed from multiple angles, and their personal decisions are subject to an extraordinary level of public interest. The fallout from Hackman's estate planning may prompt other high-net-worth individuals to re-examine their own wills and trusts, ensuring that their personal relationships are clearly and comprehensively documented. The controversy also highlights the need for transparency and communication within families, especially in cases where the potential for estrangement exists. In an age where family dynamics are increasingly complex and multifaceted, the legal system's ability to adapt and respond to these challenges is crucial. The Hackman case serves as a powerful reminder that estate planning is not merely a matter of financial management, but also an expression of one's values, priorities, and ultimately, one's legacy. Amid the legal intricacies and personal grievances, there remains an undeniable undercurrent of tragedy. Gene Hackman was not only a cinematic giant, but also a man whose life was marked by deep personal sacrifices. His decision to leave his entire estate to Betsy Arakawa speaks to a bond that, for many years, defined his personal narrative. Yet it also casts a long shadow over his relationship with his children, who have long sought their place in the legacy of a father they claim was distant at times. The emotional toll of such a decision is immeasurable. For the children, this is more than a legal battle. It is a quest for recognition and a desire to reclaim a part of their father's legacy that they feel was unjustly denied. The potential court challenge is likely to be fraught with personal history, as each party seeks not only to secure financial benefits, but also to have their version of events acknowledged. This is a battle over memory and meaning, one that will resonate long after the legal proceedings have concluded. While the legal process moves forward, the public remains captivated by the unfolding drama. Media outlets around the world have provided extensive coverage of the dispute, offering insights into both the legal arguments and the personal stories behind the headlines. Reports have detailed how Hackman's children, once estranged from their famous father, are now mobilizing legal resources in a bid to challenge the will. In interviews and public statements, they have expressed a mix of sorrow, anger, and determination, underscoring the profound emotional impact of the estate planning decisions. At the same time, legal experts continue to debate the merits of the case, analyzing every detail of the trust documents and the circumstances surrounding Hackman's final years. This convergence of legal analysis and personal narrative makes the story of Gene Hackman's estate not only a legal dispute, but also a poignant reflection on the complexities of familial love, legacy, and the price of a life lived in the spotlight. This case is emblematic of the enduring tension between individual autonomy and familial responsibility, a tension that has been at the heart of many high-profile legal battles. It serves as a reminder that the decisions we make regarding our estates are not merely administrative tasks to be completed at the end of life. They are deeply reflective of our values, our relationships, and our understanding of what legacy truly means. For Gene Hackman, a man whose artistic contributions have inspired millions, the controversy surrounding his estate is a final, complex narrative that underscores the multifaceted nature of his life. As his children, legal experts, and the public await further developments, the story continues to evolve, revealing more about the interplay between fame, fortune, and family dynamics in a world where the personal is inevitably intertwined with the public. Gene Hackman's life was marked by brilliance on screen and a profound, if at times troubled, personal journey behind the scenes. The ongoing controversy over his estate is a stark reminder that even the most meticulously crafted plans can be upended by the unpredictable nature of life and death. As discussions continue, the focus remains on the enduring questions that define our understanding of legacy. How do we balance our personal choices with the needs of those we leave behind? What responsibility do we have to nurture and maintain family bonds, even in the face of extraordinary success? And ultimately, how do we reconcile the public image of a cultural icon with the private realities of family and love? In the coming months, as the legal battles intensify and more details emerge about the intricate web of trust documents, wills, and familial relationships, the case of Gene Hackman's estate will likely become a landmark example in the annals of estate law. For now, the public can only watch and wonder, as one of Hollywood's most enigmatic figures leaves behind a legacy that is as controversial as it is iconic. The unfolding drama is a testament to the enduring power of personal decisions, a narrative that, like many of Hackman's films, invites us to look beyond the surface and consider the deeper complexities of human relationships and the legacy we all leave behind. As the nation grapples with the implications of Hackman's final wishes, the personal and legal battles that now loom serve as a powerful reminder that behind every estate plan lies a human story, a story of love, loss, reconciliation, and the sometimes painful cost of pursuing one's own destiny. In the end, the resolution of this case will not only determine the financial future of Hackman's children, but will also provide valuable insights into the nature of family, the importance of clear communication in matters of inheritance, and the enduring impact of decisions made in the twilight of life. Gene Hackman's legacy, already immortalized on the silver screen, now takes on a new dimension, a legacy contested in courtrooms and debated in living rooms, a final chapter that continues to captivate the public imagination and challenge our perceptions of what it means to truly inherit the past. The evolving controversy surrounding the distribution of Hackman's estate continues to generate heated discussions among legal professionals and cultural critics alike. As the intricate details of estate administration come under closer scrutiny, experts predict that the outcome may influence future cases involving celebrities and their personal legacies. Analysts are now examining how various state-specific regulations could impact the final disposition of the wealth, noting that these legal frameworks sometimes deviate significantly from standard practices in other jurisdictions. The case is prompting a thorough reassessment of traditional methods of asset distribution, particularly when unconventional family arrangements are involved. The dispute also raises significant questions about the moral obligations that high-profile figures bear toward their offspring, especially when personal relationships have been complicated by long years of public life. Some legal commentators suggest that this particular case could set a new standard for how courts evaluate the fairness of decisions made under the weight of advanced age and deteriorating health. With the legal teams preparing for a potentially contentious courtroom battle, there is widespread anticipation regarding the type of evidence that might be introduced to evaluate the mental state of the decedent at the time the documents were finalized. Medical records, testimonies from acquaintances, and a range of expert opinions are expected to play pivotal roles in shaping the final verdict. Amid these legal maneuvers, the cultural ramifications are equally profound. Scholars in the field of celebrity studies are analyzing how public perceptions of responsibility and familial duty are likely to be reshaped by the resolution of this case. The ongoing debate over whether public figures should adhere to conventional familial expectations or exercise absolute autonomy over their personal decisions is now more relevant than ever. Critics argue that the situation offers a rare glimpse into the tension between individual rights and the collective moral duties that society often expects. As the media continues to provide extensive coverage, these discussions are beginning to influence broader conversations about inheritance, privacy, and the responsibilities of those in the public eye. Simultaneously, industry insiders have pointed out that this legal saga might encourage other prominent individuals to revisit and possibly revise their own estate plans. Lawyers specializing in estate management are advising clients to consider the potential long-term impacts of any ambiguity in their documentation, particularly when dealing with substantial assets. The inherent challenges of updating complex financial instruments, especially when key parties pass away unexpectedly, have underscored the necessity for regular reviews and proactive legal counsel. This case serves as an instructive example, demonstrating that even with the most well-intentioned arrangements, unforeseen circumstances can lead to prolonged disputes and contentious legal battles. In an environment where transparency is highly valued, the secretive nature of these estate documents has attracted criticism. Critics claim that the deliberate withholding of information, while legally permissible, can fuel suspicion and mistrust among family members and the public alike. This criticism is prompting calls for legislative reforms that might one day require a higher degree of openness in high-value estate planning. Although such changes remain speculative at this stage, the current situation could serve as a catalyst for a broader re-examination of privacy versus accountability in inheritance law. The unfolding narrative, rich with legal intricacies and personal drama, continues to resonate with those who follow the intersection of celebrity culture and legal affairs. As the proceedings progress, all eyes will be on the courtroom to see how this high-stakes battle resolves issues that many families face in less public circumstances. The outcome is expected to offer not only a resolution for Hackman's heirs, but also invaluable lessons on the balance between personal autonomy and familial responsibility in modern estate planning. In parallel with the ongoing legal proceedings, commentators are beginning to highlight the broader impact of this saga on societal expectations surrounding legacy and memory. Scholars specializing in legal history are drawing comparisons with earlier landmark disputes that have reshaped perceptions of how fortunes should be passed on within modern families. They argue that the resolution of this particular conflict may serve as a pivotal reference point for legal reforms in estate management and prompt further analysis of statutory language in trust instruments. Such academic discussions are already influencing conferences on inheritance law, with experts urging lawmakers to review existing policies and advocate for more robust protective measures for natural heirs. Simultaneously, some critics believe that this case exemplifies the changing dynamics of personal responsibility and the evolution of family bonds in an era where individual choices increasingly diverge from conventional expectations. Social commentators have noted that public sentiment is shifting toward a more empathetic understanding of personal autonomy, even if it leads to estrangement within families. This emerging perspective is prompting journalists and cultural critics to examine how modern relationships are redefined by the pursuit of personal fulfillment and privacy. They suggest that the contemporary narrative around legacy is not solely about wealth transfer, but also about the emotional and psychological inheritance that shapes future generations. Meanwhile, estate planning professionals are discussing how the revelations from this controversy could influence best practices in the industry. Several industry leaders have proposed that greater clarity and periodic revisions should become standard protocol to prevent ambiguities that might otherwise lead to protracted disputes. In addition, legal educators are integrating this case into curricula to illustrate the delicate interplay between personal values and legal mandates. As the public watches closely, many hope that this episode will inspire a more thoughtful approach to the legal instruments that govern our most treasured personal legacies. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Gene Hackman's children being left out of his will? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.